CEO fires intern, then watches him fix a $1 billion bug. That's my son. The boardroom was silent except for the sound of fingers on a keyboard. The young man typed with surgical precision. Lines of code scrolled across the screen. Engineers stood frozen, watching. Executives held their breath. The billionaire CEO stood behind him, staring not at the screen, but at the back of the young man's head. The posture. The focus. The way his fingers moved across the keys like muscle memory inherited, not learned. Michael Hale's voice came out barely above a whisper. Who taught you this? The young man didn't look up. His fingers didn't stop moving. My mother. She designed this system. Before you did. The room went completely still. Michael's face drained of color. His hands gripped the back of the chair. What's your mother's name? The young man finally stopped typing. He turned. Looked Michael directly in the eyes. Isabel Rowe. Michael took a step back like he'd been struck. That's impossible. The young man stood. He was almost the same height. The same build. The same jawline Michael saw every morning in the mirror. Is it? Or did you just never bother to check? Michael's voice cracked. I didn't know. The young man's eyes were steady. Not angry. Just devastatingly calm. You didn't ask. Have you ever ignored someone because they didn't fit your idea of who mattered? Have you ever fired someone for telling you the truth? This is the story of a billionaire CEO who didn't recognize his own son. A brilliant intern who saved a company that threw him away. And a 20-year-old secret that changed everything the moment it came to light. Stay until the end to hear what Michael said when the DNA results came back. And to find out whether some mistakes can actually be repaired. If you believe competence should matter more than title, hit that like button right now. And subscribe to Mr. Ellington Love Lines, where every story proves that truth doesn't need permission to be heard. Let me take you back. Not to the crisis. Not yet. Let me show you how it started. With an intern no one noticed. And a CEO who never looked close enough to see what was right in front of him. Ethan Hale entered the glass tower at 7:45 every morning. The lobby was all marble and light. The security guard barely glanced at his intern badge before waving him through. He took the elevator to the 14th floor. The tech division. Rows of developers hunched over screens. The hum of servers. The smell of coffee that had been sitting too long. Ethan's desk was in the back corner. No window. No nameplate. Just a monitor, a keyboard, and a stack of tasks no one else wanted to do. He didn't complain. He sat down. Logged in. And got to work. The other interns talked during lunch. They networked. They angled for full-time offers. They laughed loudly in the break room, hoping someone important would notice. Ethan ate at his desk. He wasn't there to make friends. One of the senior developers, a woman named Priya, stopped by his desk one afternoon. You're the new intern, right? Ethan nodded. Yeah. You're quiet. He looked up briefly. I'm busy. She smiled slightly. Doing what? They usually give you guys grunt work. He gestured at his screen. Reviewing legacy code. Looking for vulnerabilities. She raised an eyebrow. That's not intern work. It is now. She studied him for a moment. What's your name again? Ethan. Ethan Hale. Hale. Any relation to Michael? Ethan's expression didn't change. No. She nodded and walked away. But the truth was more complicated than that. Ethan was a Hale. Just not one Michael knew about. 20 stories above, Michael Hale sat in his corner office. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. A desk made of steel and glass. Everything in the room was designed to project one thing. Power. His assistant knocked. "Mr. Hale, the quarterly report is ready. Send it to my screen. Also, the intern program coordinator wanted to confirm your attendance at the end of summer presentation." Michael didn't look up. "Not attending." "Delegate it." "Understood." She left. Michael pulled up the quarterly numbers. Revenue was up. Stock was up. The board was happy. Everything was exactly as it should be. Except for the small system glitch the engineers flagged last week. A transaction delay. Minor. Probably a vendor issue. Michael made a note to follow up. Then he moved on. He had no idea that the glitch was about to become a catastrophe. And that the only person who could stop it was sitting 14 floors below him, invisible and ignored. 2 weeks later, the glitch got worse. Priya noticed it first. Transactions that should process in milliseconds were taking seconds. Then minutes. She escalated to her manager. "We've got a problem." The manager pulled up the logs. "It's isolated to the legacy payment module. Can you patch it?" "I can try. But this code is old. Really old. It predates most of our current architecture." "Who wrote it?" The manager scrolled through the metadata. "It's attributed to an external contractor from 20 years ago. No name in the system." "Great. So we're flying blind." Priya thought for a moment. "Actually, there's an intern who's been reviewing legacy code. Maybe he's seen something." The manager shrugged. "Can't hurt. Bring him in." 10 minutes later, Ethan was standing in a conference room with 5 senior engineers. They explained the problem. Showed him the logs. "We need to know if you've seen anything in the legacy modules that could cause this." Ethan studied the screen for 30 seconds. "It's not a bug." "What?" "It's a backdoor." The room went silent. The manager leaned forward. "What are you talking about?" Ethan pointed at a section of code. This module was designed with a manual override. It was supposed to be removed after the first deployment. But it wasn't. It's been dormant for 2 decades. And now it's active. Ethan nodded. Something triggered it. Either an external access attempt or a cascading failure in one of the acquisition integrations. "Can you disable it?" "Not without root access." The manager looked at Priya. "Get him credentials. That requires executive approval. Then get approval. This is a priority." But approval took time. And time was something they didn't have. By the next morning, the delay had spread. Transactions were stalling across 3 divisions. Customer complaints were flooding in. Michael was in an emergency meeting with his executive team. "How bad is it?" His CFO pulled up a projection. "If this continues for another 48 hours, we're looking at 200 million in losses. Possibly more." "What are the engineers saying?" "They're working on it." "Working on it isn't good enough. I want answers. Now." Downstairs, Ethan was still waiting for root access. Priya found him at his desk. "Did the credentials come through?" "Not yet." Ethan looked at her. "How long do I have?" She hesitated. "Not long." He made a decision. "I'm going in anyway." "You can't. You'll get flagged. Probably fired. Then I'll get fired. But at least the system won't collapse." Priya stared at him. "Why do you care this much? You're an intern." Ethan's voice was quiet but firm. "Because I know what happens when people ignore problems until it's too late." He logged in using a workaround he discovered weeks ago. It was technically a violation. But it worked. He navigated to the legacy module. Found the override. Started building a containment protocol. 20 minutes later, alarms went off. Security flagged the unauthorized access. Ethan kept working. Priya watched, torn between stopping him and letting him finish. Before he could deploy the fix, 2 security officers arrived. Step away from the computer. Ethan didn't move. I'm almost done. Now. They pulled him away from the desk. His screen locked automatically. Priya stepped forward. Wait, he was trying to help. He accessed restricted systems without authorization. That's a termination-level offense. One of the officers looked at Ethan. You need to come with us. Ethan went quietly. Within the hour, he was sitting in an HR office. Across from him was the head of security and a senior HR director. Do you understand what you did? Yes. Then you understand this is grounds for immediate termination. Ethan nodded. I do. Why did you do it? Because no one else was fast enough. The HR director made a note. We're going to have to escalate this to executive leadership. Fine. 30 minutes later, Michael Hale walked into the room. He had been pulled out of another crisis meeting. He was frustrated. Impatient. This is the intern. Yes, sir. Michael looked at Ethan for the first time. Ethan met his gaze. Steady. Unflinching. You bypassed security protocols. I did. Do you have any idea how serious that is? I do. Then why? Ethan's voice was calm. Because your system is failing. And I'm the only one who knows how to stop it. Michael's jaw tightened. We have a team of engineers. Who can't read the code. Excuse me. Ethan leaned forward slightly. The module that's failing was built 20 years ago by someone who doesn't work here anymore. The logic is non-standard. The documentation is incomplete. Your engineers are guessing. I'm not. Michael stared at him. And you think you can fix it? I know I can. Michael turned to the HR director. Has he fixed it? No, sir. Security stopped him before he could deploy. Michael looked back at Ethan. So you broke protocol, endangered our systems, and didn't even solve the problem. I would have. If you'd let me. Michael's voice rose. You don't get to decide what you're allowed to do here. You're an intern. You follow orders. You don't rewrite architecture on your own authority. Ethan's expression didn't change. Then I guess you'll keep losing money. Michael's face flushed with anger. You're done. Security will escort you out. You're terminated effective immediately. Ethan stood. Fine. He looked Michael in the eye one last time. But you should know something. What? You're already losing everything. And firing me won't stop it. Michael's voice was cold. Get him out of here. Security walked Ethan out of the building. He handed over his badge. Collected his bag. And left without looking back. Behind him, the system continued to spiral. And Michael Hale had no idea that he just fired the only person who could save him. That night, Michael sat alone in his office. The building was empty. The city glowed below. He should have been focused on the crisis. On the engineers working through the night. On the projections that now estimated losses over 500 million. But his mind kept circling back to the intern. The confidence. The defiance. The way he looked Michael in the eye and didn't blink. Something about him felt familiar. Michael opened his laptop. Pulled up the intern roster. Found the name. Ethan Hale. The last name stopped him. Hale. He told himself it was coincidence when he first saw it. Hale was not an uncommon name. But now, something nagged at him. He opened a deeper search. Employee records. Application materials. Emergency contact, Isabel Rowe. Michael's heart stopped. He hadn't heard that name in 20 years. But he had never forgotten it. 23 years earlier, Michael was not a billionaire. He was a graduate student with an idea and no funding. He met Isabel in a shared co-working space. She was a systems architect. Brilliant. Precise. She saw problems 3 steps ahead. They started talking over bad coffee and late nights. Then they started building together. She designed the architecture for what would become the core of his platform. He handled the business development. They were a perfect team. And then they were more than that. Isabel was different from anyone Michael had ever known. She didn't care about status. Didn't care about wealth. She cared about whether something worked. Whether it mattered. Michael loved that about her. Until it became the thing that drove them apart. When the first investor showed interest, Michael wanted to move fast. Scale quickly. Sacrifice elegance for speed. Isabel wanted to build it right. Their arguments grew sharper. More frequent. And then Isabel told him she was pregnant. Michael panicked. Not because he didn't love her. But because he was 25, broke, and terrified that a child would derail everything he was building. His advisors told him to focus. To prioritize. To make hard choices. He told Isabel he needed time. She told him she didn't. I'm keeping the baby, Michael. With or without you. He said he needed to think. She said there was nothing to think about. He asked for space. She left. And Michael told himself it was for the best. That he would circle back. That once the company was stable, he would reach out. But stable turned into successful. Successful turned into dominant. And reaching out turned into a promise he never kept. He convinced himself Isabel had moved on. That she was fine. That she didn't need him. He never asked. He just built his empire and buried the guilt beneath layers of achievement. Now, sitting in his office, staring at her name on a screen, the guilt resurfaced like a wound that never healed. He opened a new search. Isabel Rowe. The results were sparse. She kept a low profile. Freelance consulting. A few patents under her name. No social media presence. And then he found an obituary. Isabel Rowe, 46, passed away after a brief illness. She is survived by her son, Ethan. Michael read the date. 2 years ago. His hand started shaking. He scrolled back to Ethan's application file. Pulled up the resume. Education. Work history. Skills. And then he saw it. A note in the cover letter. I am applying to this company because my mother always believed in building systems that last. I want to learn from the platform she helped create. Michael's vision blurred. He opened another window. Pulled up photos from the security logs. Ethan's face filled the screen. And Michael saw it now. The eyes. The jawline. The expression. He was looking at a ghost. No. He was looking at his son. Quick question. Have you ever realized too late that you missed something right in front of you? Someone who mattered. Someone you should have seen. Drop a comment and tell me what you did about it. And if this story is reminding you why paying attention matters, share it with someone who needs to hear it. The next morning, the crisis escalated. The platform was now experiencing full transaction failures. Customers couldn't process payments. Partners were threatening to pull contracts. The stock was in free fall. The engineering team had been working for 36 hours straight. Priya stood in front of a whiteboard covered in diagrams and code snippets. We've isolated the module. But we can't decrypt the override logic. Whoever wrote this used a non-standard encryption method. The lead engineer rubbed his face. Can we rebuild it from scratch? Not in time. We'd have to migrate every transaction pathway. That's weeks of work. Another engineer spoke up. What about the intern? The one who got fired? Priya looked up. Ethan? Yeah. He said he knew the code. The lead engineer shook his head. He's gone. Terminated. So bring him back. You want us to rehire someone who was just fired for a security violation? I want us to stop the bleeding. If he can fix this, I don't care what he did. There was a long silence. Then Priya spoke. I'll make the call. She tried Ethan's cell. It went to voicemail. She tried again. No answer. She looked at the team. Anyone have another way to reach him? One of the junior developers raised a hand. I have his email. Send him a message. Tell him it's urgent. 20 minutes later, Ethan responded. I'm not interested. Priya wrote back. The system is collapsing. We need you. Ethan's reply was immediate. You fired me. Handle it yourselves. Priya stared at the screen. Then she made a decision. She walked upstairs to Michael's office. His assistant tried to stop her. He's in a meeting. I don't care. Priya pushed past and knocked on the door. Michael looked up, irritated. I'm busy. The platform is failing. We've lost over 700 million in the last 12 hours. And the only person who can fix it is the intern you fired. Michael's expression hardened. We have a full team of engineers. Who can't read the code. Sir, I don't care what he did. If we don't bring him back, this company is going to collapse. Michael was silent. Priya stepped closer. You want to know why he could read the code? Because his mother wrote it. Isabel Rowe. Does that name mean anything to you? Michael's face went pale. Priya saw the recognition. I thought so. So whatever history you two have, put it aside. Because right now, Ethan Hale is the only chance we have. Michael stared at her for a long moment. Then he picked up his phone. Get me his contact information. Within the hour, Michael was standing outside a small apartment in a neighborhood he had never visited. He knocked. No answer. He knocked again. The door opened. Ethan stood there. No blazer. No polished appearance. Just a t-shirt and jeans. He stared at Michael. What do you want? To talk. I'm not interested. Ethan started to close the door. Michael stopped it with his hand. Please. Ethan's eyes narrowed. You fired me. I made a mistake. You made a lot of mistakes. Michael's jaw tightened. But he didn't argue. You're right. I did. But right now, I need your help. You need my help. Not the company. You. Michael hesitated. Then nodded. Yes. Ethan crossed his arms. Why should I? Because if you don't, a lot of people are going to lose their jobs. People who didn't fire you. People who have families. Mortgages. Lives that depend on that platform staying alive. Ethan was silent. Michael continued, his voice quieter now. And because your mother built something that mattered. And I don't want to be the reason it dies. Ethan's expression shifted. Just slightly. You knew my mother. It wasn't a question. Michael nodded. Yes. Did you love her? Michael's voice cracked. Yes. Then why did you leave? Michael closed his eyes. Because I was a coward. Ethan stared at him. Then, after a long silence, he stepped aside. You have 1 hour. They sat in Ethan's small living room. A laptop. A few books. A photo on the shelf of a woman with kind eyes and Ethan's smile. Michael looked at the photo. That's her. Ethan nodded. Yeah. She looks happy. She was. Most of the time. Michael swallowed hard. Did she ever talk about me? Ethan's voice was flat. Sometimes. What did she say? That you were brilliant. And selfish. And that I was better off without you. Michael flinched. She was right. Ethan looked at him. So why are you here? Because I can't undo the past. But I can stop making the same mistakes. Ethan was silent for a moment. Then he picked up his laptop. Show me the logs. Michael pulled up his phone. Sent the data. Ethan scanned it. This is worse than I thought. Can you fix it? Ethan looked at him. I can. But not from here. I need to be on site. Full access. No restrictions. Michael nodded. Done. And I want it in writing. If I fix this, I get reinstated. Not as an intern. As a full engineer. With a seat at the table. Michael hesitated. Then extended his hand. Deal. Ethan shook it. Let's go. They drove back to the tower in silence. When they arrived, the engineering team was waiting. Priya saw Ethan and exhaled in relief. Thank God. Ethan sat down at a terminal. Everyone, give me space. The room cleared except for Priya and Michael. Ethan's fingers moved across the keyboard. He navigated through layers of code. Found the override. Began reverse engineering the encryption. Priya watched in awe. How did you learn this? My mom. She used to walk me through her builds when I was a kid. Michael watched from the corner. Silent. Shaken. Ethan isolated the back door. Got it. Can you close it? Not yet. If I shut it down without a fallback, the whole payment rail collapses. So what do you need? Time. How much? 3 hours. Maybe 4. We don't have 4 hours. Ethan looked up. Then you better hope I'm fast. He went back to work. The room was silent except for the sound of typing. 1 hour passed. Then 2. At hour 3, Ethan leaned back. Done. He pressed enter. The system stabilized. Transactions started processing. The alarm stopped. Priya stared at the screen. It's working. The engineers erupted in applause. Ethan stood. Closed the laptop. Michael stepped forward. You saved the company. Ethan looked at him. I saved the people who work here. Not you. He walked toward the exit. Michael followed. Ethan, wait. Ethan stopped. Turned. What? Michael's voice was barely above a whisper. I need to know. Are you my son? Ethan held his gaze. Does it matter? Yes. Why? So you can add me to your portfolio? Another acquisition? No. So I can stop pretending I didn't destroy the best thing I ever had. Ethan's eyes filled with something Michael couldn't name. Not anger. Not forgiveness. Something raw. You want to know if I'm your son? Then ask the question you should have asked 20 years ago. Michael's voice broke. Are you? Ethan's answer was quiet. Devastating. Yes. And then he walked out. Michael stood alone in the empty conference room. And for the first time in 20 years, the weight of what he lost became unbearable. If someone gave you the chance to fix the worst mistake of your life, would you take it? Even if it meant facing the person you hurt the most? Let me know in the comments. And if this story is hitting you where it matters, hit that subscribe button. Because we're just getting to the part where truth demands more than words. Michael didn't sleep that night. He sat in his penthouse, staring at his phone. He opened a search. Typed Isabel Rowe DNA test. Closed it. Opened it again. He wanted proof. But he also knew that proof would only confirm what he already felt. Ethan was his son. The next morning, Michael called his lawyer. I need a paternity test. Discreet. Fast. The lawyer paused. Is there a dispute? No. Just a need for clarity. Understood. I'll arrange it. 2 days later, Michael received a private message. Ethan had agreed to the test. Michael was surprised. He expected resistance. Refusal. But Ethan showed up at the medical office exactly on time. They sat in separate rooms. A technician swabbed Michael's cheek. Then Ethan's. The samples were sent to the lab. Results in 72 hours. Michael tried to work. Tried to focus. But everything felt hollow. On the third day, the results arrived in a sealed envelope. Michael opened it alone in his office. He read the first line. Probability of paternity, 99.97%. He set the paper down. His hands were shaking. He picked up his phone. Called Ethan. It rang 4 times. Then Ethan answered. I got the results. So did I. Michael's throat tightened. I'm sorry. For what? For leaving my mother. For not being there. For firing me. Be specific. For all of it. Ethan was silent. Then he spoke, his voice eerily calm. You don't get to apologize and make this go away. You don't get to add me to your life like a line item. I'm not trying to. Then what are you trying to do? Michael closed his eyes. I'm trying to do what I should have done 20 years ago. Show up. Ethan's voice cracked, just slightly. It's 20 years too late. I know. But I'm here now. And I'm not leaving again. There was a long pause. Then Ethan spoke. I don't know if I can forgive you. I'm not asking you to. I'm just asking you to let me try. Another silence. Then Ethan said something Michael didn't expect. Fine. But on my terms. What terms? We meet. Once a week. No press. No board members. Just us. And you answer every question I ask. Honestly. Michael nodded, even though Ethan couldn't see him. Deal. And one more thing. What? You tell the board. Publicly. That I'm your son. And that my mother deserves credit for the work she did. Michael hesitated. That will complicate things. Good. You've spent 20 years keeping things simple. Time to get complicated. Michael exhaled. Okay. Okay. I'll do it. Ethan hung up. Michael sat in the silence. And for the first time in a long time, he felt something other than control. He felt accountable. The next board meeting was tense. Michael stood at the head of the table. The board members were confused. This was supposed to be a routine quarterly review. Instead, Michael began with something none of them expected. Before we discuss financials, I need to make a disclosure. The room went quiet. 3 weeks ago, we experienced a critical system failure. Loss projections exceeded $1 billion. The board shifted uncomfortably. They knew this part. The crisis was resolved by a member of our intern program. Ethan Hale. One of the board members spoke up. The intern you fired? Yes. There were murmurs around the table. Michael continued. What you don't know is that Ethan Hale is my biological son. The room erupted. Michael raised a hand. I didn't know until recently. His mother, Isabel Rowe, was the original architect of our core platform. She and I were involved over 20 years ago. When she became pregnant, I walked away. The board was stunned into silence. Michael's voice was steady, but his hands gripped the table. Ethan grew up without me. His mother raised him alone. And when he applied to this company, I didn't recognize him. I didn't even look. He paused. I fired him for trying to save this company. And if it weren't for his competence and his integrity, we would have lost everything. One of the board members, a woman named Claire, leaned forward. Michael, why are you telling us this? Because I'm tired of pretending that success erases harm. And because Ethan deserves recognition. Not as my son. But as the person who saved this company when no one else could. Another board member spoke. What do you want us to do? Michael looked around the table. I want Ethan offered a senior engineering position. I want Isabel Rowe's contributions formally acknowledged in our company history. And I want to establish a scholarship in her name for students in systems architecture. Claire nodded slowly. That's reasonable. And one more thing. What? I'm stepping back from day-to-day operations. I'll remain on the board. But I need to focus on something I should have prioritized a long time ago. Which is being a father. The room was silent. Then Claire spoke. We'll put it to a vote. The vote was unanimous. Michael walked out of the boardroom feeling lighter than he had in years. That night, he texted Ethan. It's done. Ethan replied. I saw the press release. And it's a start. Michael smiled. Same time next week? Yeah. Same time. The company's stock recovered within 2 weeks. The press covered the story extensively. Some outlets framed it as a redemption arc. Others as a corporate scandal. Michael didn't read the articles. He was too busy trying to rebuild something far more fragile than a stock price. The first meeting with Ethan was awkward. They sat in a small coffee shop. Not a boardroom. Not a corporate space. Somewhere neutral. Ethan ordered black coffee. Michael ordered the same, though he usually took cream. So, where do we start? Ethan looked at him. You tell me about her. My mom. The real version. Not the one you've been remembering. Michael nodded slowly. She was the smartest person I ever met. She saw systems the way most people see colors. Intuitively. She didn't need to be convinced something was broken. She just knew. What else? She laughed at my jokes even when they weren't funny. She believed in building things that lasted, not things that sold. And she loved you before you were even born. Ethan's jaw tightened. Then why did you leave? Because I thought I had to choose. Between her and success. Between being a father and being someone who mattered. And now? Now I know I was wrong. The only thing that mattered was her. And you. And I threw it away because I was too scared to believe I could have both. Ethan was quiet for a long time. Then he spoke. She used to tell me that you weren't a bad person. Just a confused one. Michael's eyes filled with tears. She was kinder than I deserved. Ethan nodded. Yeah. She was. They sat in silence. Then Ethan asked another question. Do you have other kids? No. Ever been married? No. Why not? Michael looked at him. Because no one else was her. Ethan's expression softened. Just a little. She never married either. Michael's voice cracked. Was she happy? Ethan considered this. She had hard days. But yeah. She was happy. She had me. She had her work. She had a life she built on her terms. Michael nodded, tears slipping down his face. I'm glad. They talked for 2 hours. It wasn't easy. It wasn't comfortable. But it was real. And when they left, Ethan did something that surprised both of them. He shook Michael's hand. See you next week. Michael held on a little longer than necessary. Yeah. Next week. Over the following months, the meetings continued. Sometimes they talked about work. Sometimes about Isabel. Sometimes about nothing important at all. Slowly, carefully, they began to know each other. Ethan started working at the company. Not in Michael's division. He insisted on earning his place. But Michael watched from a distance. Saw the way Ethan led. The way he solved problems. The way people respected him not because of his last name, but because of his competence. And Michael felt something he hadn't felt in years. Pride. One evening, 6 months after the DNA test, Ethan asked Michael to dinner. Not coffee. Dinner. Michael arrived at the restaurant early. Nervous. Ethan showed up exactly on time. They ordered. Made small talk. Then Ethan set down his fork. I need to tell you something. Michael's chest tightened. Okay. I've been angry at you for a long time. My whole life, really. I know. But I'm tired of being angry. It's exhausting. And it's not what my mom would have wanted. Michael's throat closed. She wanted me to know you. She told me that before she died. She said you weren't perfect, but you weren't evil. And that if I ever got the chance, I should let you try. Michael could barely breathe. So I'm letting you try. Michael's voice broke. Thank you. Ethan nodded. Don't make me regret it. I won't. They finished dinner. And when they left, Ethan did something he had never done before. He hugged Michael. It was brief. Awkward. But it was everything. A year later, Michael stood in front of a crowd at a university auditorium. He was giving a keynote. Not about business. About responsibility. He talked about success. About ambition. About the cost of prioritizing achievement over people. And then he talked about Ethan. I spent 20 years building a company. And in that time, I told myself I was building something that mattered. But the truth is, I was running. From accountability. From vulnerability. From the life I should have lived. He paused. A year ago, I met my son for the first time. Not as a baby. Not as a child. As a man. A man I had no part in raising. A man who succeeded not because of me, but in spite of me. The room was silent. He taught me that leadership is not about control. It's about recognition. It's about seeing the people in front of you and valuing their voice, their insight, their humanity. Michael looked directly into the audience. I don't know if I'll ever be the father he deserved. But I'm going to spend the rest of my life trying. The applause was thunderous. But the moment that mattered most happened afterward. Ethan was waiting in the hallway. Michael saw him and stopped. You came. Ethan nodded. Yeah. I came. What did you think? Ethan smiled. A real smile. I think you're getting better at this. Michael laughed, a sound full of relief. High praise. Don't let it go to your head. They walked out together. Father and son. Still learning. Still healing. But together. 2 years after the crisis, the company unveiled a new initiative. The Isabel Rowe Fellowship. A fully funded program for young engineers from underrepresented backgrounds. Ethan stood on stage at the launch event. My mother believed that the best systems are the ones that serve everyone. Not just the people who can afford access. This fellowship is built on that belief. He looked out at the crowd. She didn't get the recognition she deserved when she was alive. But her work is still here. Still running. Still saving lives and businesses and futures. His voice strengthened. And now, her name will be attached to the next generation of builders. The audience rose in applause. Michael watched from the side of the stage, tears streaming down his face. After the event, Ethan found him. You okay? Michael nodded. Yeah. I just wish she could see this. Ethan's voice was soft. I think she can. They stood together in the quiet. Then Ethan spoke again. Dad? It was the first time he had used the word. Michael's breath caught. Yeah. Thank you. For showing up. Michael pulled him into a hug. Thank you for letting me. They held each other. And in that moment, the past did not disappear. But it finally, slowly, began to heal. 3 months after the fellowship launch, Ethan was promoted to Chief Technology Officer. The announcement surprised no one except Ethan himself. He sat in Michael's office, holding the offer letter. This is too fast. Michael shook his head. It's overdue. You've earned it 3 times over. People are going to say I only got it because I'm your son. Let them. You and I know the truth. Ethan set the letter down. I need to think about it. Michael nodded. Take your time. But Ethan, listen to me. You are the most qualified person for this role. Not because of your name. Because of your work. Ethan looked at him. You really believe that? I know it. Ethan was quiet for a moment. Then he picked up the letter again. Okay. I'll do it. Michael smiled. Good. Now get out of my office. You have a company to run. Ethan laughed. Half a company. You still run the other half. For now. Ethan paused at the door. What does that mean? Michael leaned back in his chair. It means I'm thinking about retiring. Really retiring. Not just stepping back. When? When I'm sure you're ready. Ethan's expression shifted. I don't know if I'll ever be ready for that. Michael's voice was gentle. You're already ready. You just don't see it yet. Ethan nodded slowly. Then left. Michael watched him go. And for the first time in decades, he felt okay with letting go. The press conference announcing Ethan's promotion was carefully managed. Ethan stood at the podium. Michael sat to the side. A reporter raised her hand. Mr. Hale, there's been speculation about nepotism given your relationship with the CEO. How do you respond? Ethan's answer was calm and direct. I respond by pointing to my work. I've led 3 major platform overhauls in the last 18 months. I've reduced system vulnerabilities by 40%. And I've built a team that consistently delivers ahead of schedule. He paused. My father and I have a complicated history. But my qualifications are not complicated. They're documented. If anyone wants to challenge them, I welcome the conversation. Another reporter spoke up. Do you feel pressure to live up to your father's legacy? Ethan glanced at Michael. Then back at the reporter. No. I feel pressure to live up to my mother's. The room went quiet. Isabel Rowe built systems that lasted. That served people. That prioritized integrity over profit. That's the legacy I care about. The reporter nodded, clearly moved. After the press conference, Michael found Ethan in the hallway. That was perfect. Ethan shrugged. I just told the truth. Your mother would be proud. Ethan's eyes filled, just slightly. Yeah. I think she would. They stood together for a moment. Then Michael spoke. I have something for you. He handed Ethan a small box. Ethan opened it. Inside was a hard drive. What is this? Every piece of code your mother ever wrote for this company. I had the archives pulled. It's all here. Ethan stared at the drive. Why are you giving me this? Because it's yours. It was always yours. Ethan closed the box carefully. Thank you. Michael nodded. She was the best of us, Ethan. Don't ever forget that. I won't. 6 months into his role as CTO, Ethan faced his first major crisis. A competitor launched a hostile smear campaign. They claimed the platform had unpatched vulnerabilities. That customer data was at risk. It wasn't true. But the accusation alone was enough to spook investors. The stock dropped 12% in a single day. Ethan called an emergency meeting with the security team. I want a full external audit. Third party. No internal reviews. We're going to prove, publicly, that our systems are secure. One of the engineers spoke up. That's going to be expensive. I don't care. We're not going to fight rumors with press releases. We're going to fight them with evidence. The audit took 3 weeks. When the results came back, they were flawless. Ethan released the full report to the public. The stock rebounded. The competitor's smear campaign collapsed. And Ethan's reputation as a leader solidified. Michael watched it all from a distance. Proud. Relieved. That night, he called Ethan. You handled that perfectly. I had good teachers. Your mother. And you. Michael's throat tightened. I didn't teach you that. You taught me to care about the truth more than the optics. That's what mattered. Michael was quiet for a long moment. Thank you. For what? For giving me more credit than I deserve. You're learning, old man. Michael laughed. Yeah. I guess I am. 1 year into Ethan's role as CTO. Michael made his announcement. He was stepping down as CEO. The board tried to convince him to stay. But Michael was firm. It's time. The company doesn't need me anymore. It needs someone who understands where we're going, not where we've been. And you think that's Ethan? I know it is. The transition was smooth. Ethan stepped into the CEO role with quiet confidence. Michael remained on the board but took a secondary role. For the first time in 30 years, he was not the center of the company. And he was okay with that. At Ethan's first board meeting as CEO, he laid out his vision. We're going to do 3 things. 1, we're going to double our investment in security and infrastructure. 2, we're going to make our platform accessible to smaller businesses, not just enterprise clients. 3, we're going to build partnerships with educational institutions to create pathways for underrepresented engineers. One of the board members raised a concern. That's going to cut into margins. Ethan's response was immediate. Good. Margins aren't the mission. Impact is. The board member looked at Michael. Michael smiled. You heard him. The board voted in favor. After the meeting, Michael and Ethan walked out together. "You're going to be better at this than I ever was." Ethan shook his head. "I'm just building on what you started." "No. You're building what your mother envisioned." "I just held the space." Ethan stopped walking. "Dad." "Yeah. Thank you. For stepping back. I know that wasn't easy." Michael's voice was thick. "Letting go of the company was easy. Letting go of control was hard. But you made it easier." "How?" "By being someone I trust." They shook hands. Then Michael pulled him into a hug. "I'm proud of you." Ethan's voice was quiet. "I'm proud of you too." 2 years into Ethan's tenure as CEO, the company hit a major milestone. They were named one of the most ethical companies in the industry. The recognition was not just for financials. It was for culture. For transparency. For impact. At the awards ceremony, Ethan gave a speech. This company was built by a lot of people. But it was shaped by one person more than anyone else. My mother, Isabel Rowe. He held up a photo. She believed that technology should serve humanity, not the other way around. That profit without purpose is just noise. And that the best thing you can build is a system that doesn't need you to keep running. He set the photo down. "I'm standing here because of her vision. And because of a man who spent 20 years running from his mistakes, and the last 4 years trying to repair them." He looked at Michael in the audience. "Dad, this is as much yours as it is mine." Michael's eyes filled with tears. The applause was deafening. After the ceremony, a young woman approached Ethan. "Mr. Hale, I'm one of the Isabel Rowe Fellows. I just wanted to say thank you. This program changed my life." Ethan smiled. "What's your name?" "Anika." "What are you working on, Anika?" She lit up. "I'm building an AI model to detect bias in hiring algorithms." Ethan's smile widened. "That's exactly the kind of work my mother would have loved." "Keep going." She nodded, eyes shining. "I will." As she walked away, Michael joined Ethan. "You're good at this." "At what?" "At seeing people. At making them feel like they matter." Michael paused. "I was never good at that." Ethan looked at him. "You're better at it now. Only because you taught me how." They stood together, watching the crowd. Then Ethan spoke. "I've been thinking about something." "What?" "I want to step back. Not from the company. But from the spotlight. I want to build a leadership team that doesn't revolve around me." Michael nodded. "That's smart." "You think so?" "I know so. The best leaders are the ones who make themselves replaceable." Ethan smiled. "Where'd you learn that?" "From watching you let go." Michael laughed quietly. "Took me long enough. If you've ever had to let go of something you built to make room for something better, tell me about it in the comments. And if this story is reminding you that legacy isn't about holding on, it's about passing forward, hit that subscribe button. We're almost at the end, and you don't want to miss what comes next. 3 years after Ethan became CEO, he met someone. Her name was Dr. Simone Cartwright. She was a bioethicist who consulted on AI policy. They met at a conference. She challenged one of his keynote points. He respected her for it. They started emailing. Then talking. Then dating. Ethan was nervous to tell Michael. But when he finally did, Michael's response surprised him. "I'm happy for you. You don't want to meet her first. Vet her." Michael laughed. "You're a grown man, Ethan. You don't need my permission." "I know. But I want your blessing." Michael's expression softened. You have it. Always. 6 months later, Ethan brought Simone to dinner. Michael was waiting at the restaurant. Nervous in a way he hadn't been in years. Simone walked in with Ethan. She was poised, warm, and direct. "Mr. Hale, it's good to finally meet you." Michael stood, shaking her hand. "Please, call me Michael. And the pleasure is mine." They sat. Ordered. Made small talk. Then Simone cut to the point. "Ethan's told me a lot about you. About your history." Michael tensed slightly. "I'm sure he has." She smiled. "He also told me about the last 4.5 years. About how hard you've worked to repair things." Michael glanced at Ethan, who was watching quietly. "I've tried." Simone nodded. "That matters. A lot of people don't try. They just justify." Michael exhaled, relieved. "Thank you." The rest of the dinner was easy. Comfortable. When they left, Simone hugged Michael. "Thank you for raising a good man." Michael's voice cracked. "I didn't raise him. His mother did. I'm just grateful I get to know him now." Simone squeezed his hand. "He's lucky to have you in his life." After she left, Ethan turned to Michael. "So?" Michael smiled. "She's wonderful. Don't screw it up." Ethan laughed. "I'll try not to." Michael put a hand on his shoulder. "I mean it, Ethan. Don't make the mistakes I made. Don't let fear keep you from building the life you want." Ethan nodded. "I won't." A year later, Ethan and Simone got engaged. Michael was the first person Ethan told. They were sitting in Michael's study. Ethan showed him the ring. "I'm getting married." Michael's face broke into a wide smile. "Congratulations. I want you to be my best man." Michael froze. "What?" Ethan's voice was steady. "I want you to stand up with me. If you're willing." Michael's eyes filled with tears. "Ethan, I'd be honored." "Good. Because Simone already bought your tux." Michael laughed through his tears. "She's efficient. She's perfect." "Yeah. She is." They sat in the quiet for a moment. Then Michael spoke. "Your mother would have loved her." Ethan nodded. "I think so too." The wedding was small. Intimate. Just close friends and family. Michael stood beside Ethan at the altar. When the officiant asked who gave this man in marriage, Michael spoke. "His mother." "And I do." His voice cracked on the last word. Ethan squeezed his shoulder. The ceremony was beautiful. Simone was radiant. Ethan was steady and sure. When they exchanged vows, Michael had to wipe his eyes. At the reception, Michael gave a toast. "I met my son for the first time 5 years ago. Not as a baby. Not as a child. But as a man who had every reason to hate me." The room was quiet. "He didn't hate me. He gave me a chance. And over the last 5 years, he's taught me what it means to show up. To be present. To value people over achievement." Michael looked at Ethan and Simone. "Today, I'm watching him marry someone who sees him the way he deserves to be seen. And I'm grateful. Not just because I get to be here. But because I get to witness what love looks like when it's built on truth." He raised his glass. "To Ethan and Simone. May your life together be everything mine wasn't. And everything it should have been." The room erupted in applause. Ethan stood and hugged Michael. "Thank you, Dad." Michael held him tight. "Thank you for not giving up on me." 5 years after Michael stepped down as CEO, he was diagnosed with a kidney condition. The irony was not lost on him. The same condition that shaped his son's existence now threatened his own. He told Ethan over coffee. It's genetic. The doctors say I have maybe 2 years before I need a transplant. Ethan set down his cup. Have they started looking for a match? Michael nodded. I'm on the list. Ethan's response was immediate. Test me. What? Test me. I want to see if I'm a match. Michael shook his head. No. Absolutely not. Why not? Because I'm not going to ask you to do that. You're not asking. I'm offering. Ethan, I don't deserve. Stop. This isn't about what you deserve. It's about what I choose. Michael's voice broke. I can't let you do this. Ethan's voice was firm. You don't get to decide. Just like Mom didn't let you decide for her. Michael stared at him. She told you about that? She told me everything. Ethan leaned forward. She gave you life because she loved you. I'm offering to do the same. Not because I owe you. But because you're my father. And I'm not losing you. Michael covered his face with his hands. His shoulders shook. Ethan reached across the table and took his hand. Let me do this. Michael nodded, unable to speak. 2 weeks later, the test results came back. Ethan was a perfect match. Michael was sitting in his living room when Ethan called. I got the results. And? We're a match. Michael closed his eyes. Ethan, are you sure about this? I've never been more sure of anything. The surgery was scheduled for 3 months later. In the weeks leading up to it, Ethan and Michael spent more time together than ever. They went through old photos. Talked about Isabel. Laughed about mistakes. Sat in comfortable silence. One evening, Michael pulled out a letter. What's that? Something I wrote. For you. In case something goes wrong. Ethan's face hardened. Nothing's going to go wrong. I know. But I need you to have this anyway. He handed Ethan the envelope. Don't open it unless you have to. Ethan took it, his hands shaking slightly. Okay. Michael reached over and squeezed his shoulder. I love you, son. Ethan's voice was thick. I love you too, Dad. The day of the surgery arrived. Simone drove Ethan to the hospital. Michael was already there. They prepped in separate rooms. Before they went under, a nurse brought Ethan a note. It was from Michael. Ethan, thank you. Not just for this. For everything. For seeing me. For forgiving me. For letting me be your father. Whatever happens today, know that the last 5 years have been the best of my life. I love you. Dad. Ethan folded the note carefully. Tucked it into his belongings. Then he lay back and let the anesthesia take him. The surgery took 7 hours. Both procedures were successful. Michael woke up first. Groggy but stable. The first thing he asked was about Ethan. He's fine. Recovery is going well. Relief flooded through him. When Ethan woke, Simone was sitting beside him. Hey. Ethan's voice was hoarse. Hey. How do you feel? Like I just gave away a kidney. She laughed, tears in her eyes. You did. Is he okay? He's perfect. And he's asking for you. 2 days later, they moved Ethan into Michael's room. They lay in adjacent beds, both recovering. Michael looked over at Ethan. You saved my life. Ethan smiled weakly. Now we're even. We're not even close to even. Ethan's voice was soft. Then I guess you'll just have to stick around long enough to make it up to me. Michael's eyes filled. I plan to. They recovered together. Slowly. Carefully. And in those quiet hospital days, something shifted. The last wall between them finally came down. 6 months after the surgery, Michael was healthier than he had been in years. Ethan had recovered fully. They were sitting on Michael's porch, watching the sunset. "I've been thinking." "About what?" "About what's next." Michael looked at him. "For you or for me?" "For both of us." Ethan leaned forward. "I want to start a foundation. In Mom's name. Focused on funding women in engineering. Mentorship. Scholarships. Research grants." Michael nodded. "I love that. I want you to help me run it." Michael blinked. "Me? Yeah. You've spent 30 years building companies. I want you to spend the next 30 building people." Michael's throat tightened. "I'd be honored." Ethan smiled. "Good. Because I already filed the paperwork." Michael laughed. "Of course you did." They sat in the quiet. Then Michael spoke. "Ethan, I need to say something." "Okay. I know I've said it before. But I need you to really hear it. I'm sorry. For all the years I missed. For all the ways I failed you and your mother. I can't get that time back. But I'm grateful. So deeply grateful. That you gave me the chance to be part of your life now." Ethan's voice was steady. "I'm grateful too. For the last 5 years. For getting to know you. For learning that people can actually change." He paused. "You're not the same man who left my mother." Michael's voice broke. "I hope not. You're not. You're better. And I'm proud to be your son." Michael reached over and pulled Ethan into a hug. They held each other as the sun set. Two men. Father and son. Broken and repaired. Lost and found. 1 year later, the Isabel Rowe Foundation launched its first cohort. 50 young women. Fully funded. Mentored by industry leaders. Ethan and Michael stood together at the opening ceremony. Michael spoke first. "This foundation exists because of a woman who believed that everyone deserves a chance to build something meaningful. Isabel Rowe was a brilliant engineer, a devoted mother, and the best person I ever knew." His voice cracked. "I failed her in life. But I'm committed to honoring her in death. And I'm grateful to my son, Ethan, for giving me the chance to do that." He stepped aside. Ethan took the microphone. "My mother taught me that the best systems are the ones that empower others. That leadership is not about control. It's about creating space for people to thrive." He looked at the 50 young women in the audience. "You are here because you are brilliant. Because you have potential. And because someone believed you deserve a chance. Take that chance. Build something that lasts. And when you're done, create space for the next person." The applause was overwhelming. After the ceremony, one of the fellows approached Ethan. "Mr. Hale, can I ask you something?" "Of course." "How did you forgive him?" "Your father." "After everything." Ethan looked at Michael, who was across the room talking to a group of students. "I realized that holding on to anger was only hurting me. And that people can change if you give them the space to do it." He looked back at her. "Forgiveness isn't about forgetting. It's about deciding that the future matters more than the past." She nodded, thoughtful. "Thank you." "You're welcome." As she walked away, Michael joined Ethan. "What was that about?" "Just a good question." "What was the question?" "How I forgave you." Michael tensed. "What did you say?" Ethan smiled. "That you were worth it." Michael's eyes filled. "I don't know if I was." "You are. Every day, you prove it." Michael nodded, unable to speak. They stood together, watching the next generation begin. And for the first time in decades, Michael felt something he never thought he would. Peace. 10 years after Ethan first walked into that glass tower as an invisible intern, he stood on a stage at a technology summit. He was now one of the most respected leaders in the industry. But that day, he was not talking about technology. He was talking about people. I was raised by a single mother who gave me everything. She taught me to code. She taught me to think. She taught me to value integrity over achievement. He paused. When she died, I was angry. At the world. At the father who was never there. At the system that didn't recognize her brilliance. The audience was silent. So I walked into my father's company. Not to join it. To confront it. To prove that I was worth more than the absence he left behind. He looked out at the crowd. I got fired. I got humiliated. And then I got a second chance. Not because I deserved it. But because I was the only one who could solve a problem no one else saw. He smiled slightly. That's when everything changed. Not just for the company. But for me. And for my father. He paused. Michael Hale is not a perfect man. He made terrible mistakes. He abandoned people he loved. He prioritized power over presence. Ethan's voice strengthened. But he also did something most people don't. He admitted he was wrong. He showed up. He did the work. And he proved that it's never too late to change. The crowd erupted in applause. Ethan raised a hand. I'm not telling you this story to celebrate redemption. I'm telling you this story to remind you that the people you ignore might be the ones who save you. That competence doesn't care about title. And that legacy is not what you build. It's who you empower. He stepped back from the podium. The applause was deafening. After the speech, Michael was waiting backstage. That was incredible. Ethan smiled. I meant every word. I know. That's why it mattered. They walked out together. As they reached the exit, a journalist stopped them. Mr. Hale, can I ask you one question? Ethan nodded. Sure. 10 years ago, you were an intern no one noticed. Now you're one of the most influential leaders in tech. What changed? Ethan glanced at Michael. Then back at the journalist. I stopped waiting for permission to matter. And I started building the world my mother envisioned. He paused. And I let my father prove he could be part of it. The journalist smiled. Thank you. As they walked away, Michael spoke quietly. Thank you. For what? For giving me a chance. For believing I could be better. For letting me be your father. Ethan stopped walking. Turned to face Michael. Dad, you don't have to keep thanking me. I know. But I will anyway. Ethan smiled. Then you're welcome. Every time. They continued walking. Father and son. Not perfect. But whole. If this story reminded you that it's never too late to repair what's broken, share it. Tag someone who gave you a second chance. Or someone who deserves one. And subscribe to Mr. Ellington Love Lines, because every day, we tell the stories that prove people can change, systems can heal, and love doesn't need perfection. It just needs presence. 15 years after the crisis that brought them together, Ethan and Michael sat in the office of the Isabel Rowe Foundation. The foundation had grown beyond anything they imagined. Hundreds of fellows. Dozens of research grants. Partnerships with universities across the country. Simone walked in, holding a folder. You two need to see this. She set it down. Inside was a proposal. From one of the original fellows. Now a tenured professor. She wants to endow a chair in systems ethics, named after Isabel. Ethan read the proposal, his eyes filling. Michael leaned over his shoulder. She's honoring your mother. Ethan nodded, unable to speak. Simone sat beside him. This is her legacy, Ethan. Not just the code she wrote. The people she inspired. Ethan wiped his eyes. She would have loved this. Michael's voice was soft. She would have been proud of you. Ethan looked at him. She would have been proud of both of us. Michael nodded. Yeah. I think she would. That night, Ethan stood alone in his office. On his desk was a photo of Isabel. Young. Smiling. Holding a notebook full of code. He picked it up. We did it, Mom. We built something that lasts. He set the photo down gently. Then he turned off the light and went home. To Simone. To the life he built. To the future his mother made possible. And to the father who finally learned to show up. Sometimes the greatest systems are not made of code. They are made of courage. The courage to see people. To value their voice. To admit when you are wrong. Michael Hale spent 20 years running from his mistakes. And 5 years repairing them. Ethan Hale spent his childhood without a father. And his adulthood building a relationship with one. Together, they proved that legacy is not about what you build alone. It is about what you empower others to build after you are gone. The intern who was fired became the CEO who transformed an industry. The father who abandoned his son became the man received a kidney from him. And the woman who was never recognized in her lifetime became the name that will inspire generations. This is not a story about perfection. It is a story about presence. About showing up. Even when it is hard. Even when it is late. Even when you do not deserve it. Because sometimes, the greatest gift you can give is the chance to try again. And sometimes, the greatest strength is letting someone prove they have changed. If you have ever been ignored, remember this. Your voice matters. Your competence matters. And the people who do not see you now may one day realize you were the answer all along. If you have ever made a mistake you thought was unforgivable, remember this. It is never too late. Not to erase the past. But to build a different future. And if you have ever wondered whether people can really change, remember this. They can. If you give them space. If you give them time. And if you give them the truth. Now go. Build something that lasts. See the people in front of you. And when you fail, show up anyway. Because that is what legacy really means. Not what you build. But who you become while building it.